Welcome to your iconic image. If you want to take control of your image and be a power player in your space, then this is the show for you. Here we will arm you with tools and information to help you grow your brand on purpose. I'm your host, Marlana Semenza, photographer and visual strategist. Now let's dive into today's episode. Nicky Billou is the millionaire maker. He's an international best-selling author, in-demand speaker, advisor and confidant to successful and dynamic entrepreneurs, founder of eCircle Academy, and the host of the #1 podcast on thought leadership. Welcome, Nicky.
Marlana, great to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
So we're going to talk a little bit today about being sought after. So tell me, how linked is our income to being sought after?
Honestly, the link is very real and immediate. If you're sought after, that basically means people want you. They want to do business with you. They want what you have to offer. You know, the itch they have that needs to be scratched, they think you're the one who can do it. So it's fantastic. It's what really allows you to take your income from, a level which you barely scrape by to a level at which you have more money than you know what to do with. And you get to use that money, not only to take care of the people you love, but also to make a difference in the world to the causes that matter most to you.
So then how do we become sought after?
Well, step one is you got to commit. Okay, there's a distinction that the great Steve Pressfield, the author of the fiction book, The Legend of Bagger Vance, and the nonfiction book, The War of Art, which I have right here. It's one of my favorite books of all time. He calls it amateur versus pro. And let me tell you what that distinction's all about. Most people play at business. They're amateurs at it, okay? And they're not pros. So let me give you an example of the distinction between amateur versus pro in a field of business. So imagine that you need to have a new deck built, and you've got a friend who is an amateur at it, builds kind of decks in his spare time. And, he's pretty good at it, but he's the kind of guy that has a regular job. And if the regular job interferes, he's not going to show up. He's the kind of guy who might get sick one morning. And if he gets sick, he's not going to show up. He may show up. Some days he may not. You can't count on it. Then there's this other fella, he's not your friend. He's a pro. So this guy builds decks. He has studied how to build decks. He has built 10,000 decks. He shows up no matter what. And he gives his word. He'll be there at a certain time. He's there at that time. If he's sick, if it's raining, none of that stuff matters. He's just a deck builder. And this is a fella who always completes the job. Now, if you had a choice between which one of these two folks to hire to build your deck, would you choose the amateur or would you choose the pro?
Pro all the time.
Every time, right? So if you want to be in business, if you want to be a thought leader, if you want to be sought after, you got to make the decision to go pro. You're no longer an amateur. You're in it to win it. You're here to learn the craft of how to deliver a result repeatably, countably for everybody who can use the type of help that you are all about delivering. And I got to tell you, that decision is liberating. It's freeing. It's what gives you the ability to go out there in the world and create business for yourself, because people will see that you have a reputation for being that gal who every time, no matter what, delivers the result. You're accountable. And that's what matters. That's what has you be sought after.
And I also think in there, it's the standard. Once you decide to be a professional at anything, it's also the standard that you hold yourself to, because there is that aspect of it that if I hold myself to a certain standard, then other people will they will hold me to that standard as well, and know that I will be held to that standard.
Well, you got to be the one holding yourself to that standard. It's not about anybody else holding yourself to any kind of standard. Amateurs don't hold themselves to any kind of standard. Professionals absolutely hold themselves to the highest, most rigorous standards. And that's what attracts people to them. Listen, when someone walks in the room and they're the kind of person who always keeps their word. They don't have to open their mouth. You can feel that energy of reliability, count on ability, solidity coming off of them. You're going to want to walk to them. You may have no reason to walk over to them and talk to them, but you're going to want to. You're going to be drawn to that. And that's the power of turning pro, setting up those standards for yourself that are inviolate, that you will never compromise on. So I've been reading a book, okay, and doing a program called 75 Hard. So let me just show this to you. I'm moving my computer because I had it under my computer for a sec. This is the book 75 Hard, written by a man named Andy Frisella. So I'm on day 72 of 75 Hard. Now here's the rules for doing 75 Hard. Every day, you got to take a progress pick. Every day, you got to read at least 10 pages in a nonfiction book, like a biography or personal development book. Every day, you got to drink a gallon of water. Every day, you got to eat according to a plan. And every day, you got to do 2 45-minute workouts, non-consecutive and 1 outdoors. If you mess up even once, you go back to day 1. So the level of mental toughness that gets developed by sticking to this is what turns you into a bit of a pro when it comes to keeping your word. And I got to tell you, if someone wants to be sought after, that's the first thing they got to do. They got to commit to going professional, setting high standards for themselves. They're going to do a certain amount of learning every day. They're going to do a certain amount of creating every day. They're going to do a certain amount of selling every day, because that's a big part of going pro.
And so now that we have gone pro, what is the next step after that?
Well, the next step after that is you got to get clear. What is it that you're going pro for? What is your expertise? And a lot of people think, well, my expertise is what I've been doing, but it really isn't. I mean, you know, you could be someone who is, I don't know, a real estate salesperson. You can go, my expertise is selling real estate. It's not. If you're someone who's been selling real estate, chances are we'd have to like help you go through a process that we take people through to figure out what is it that had you get to the point where you're selling real estate. The chances are you're probably someone who's an expert problem solver. The chances are you're someone who is probably good with people. The chances are that you're somebody who has the ability to paint a fantastic vision. So selling real estate may be what you're doing now. But if you start to understand what your expertise is truly about, you can create for yourself areas of authority that are far beyond selling real estate. Selling real estate's being in a box. It can be a very lucrative box, don't get me wrong. But if you expand your horizons to what really, out of your life experience, gave you the ability to be where you're at right now and successfully sell real estate, you can create a whole body of intellectual property for yourself. That's what we tell people they need to do. So I'll show you something that I've created, okay? Mm-hmm. So, you know, I'm in the business of personal branding, coaching, etc., right? But one of the things that has got me here has been this obsession with learning about winning. How do you win? How do you become successful? So this is a whole folder full of intellectual property that I've created around winning. So, Marlana, this is the basis of a commercial PhD. Okay, this has been created by a man named Matt Church, okay, in Australia. He taught me this methodology, and here's the genius of it is, okay, I've created 53 of these, and let me go through one of them for you, and then talk to you about why having such a rich depth of intellectual property really works in terms of helping you become sought after. Okay, so it starts off with the statement. The statement we have here is the most important factor in becoming a champion is how you think. Innocuous statement, right? Then we go into explaining it deeper. And why do we want to explain it deeper? So people can really go, what do you mean by that? Because a lot of people will say that. And I go, okay, this is what I mean by that. How a champion thinks is the decisive factor in what makes him a champion. His thoughts, his attitudes, his beliefs are so precise that they allow him to win. Okay, so that's step 1 and step 2 in creating this piece of intellectual property. Step 3 is the stories. These are the case studies of people that I know and have worked with. So my darling better half, Teresa Dugwell, in her late 40s, set the first of 3 Guinness World Records for running 12 hours on a treadmill. So that's the story of someone who applies this. My friend Robin Sharma, the author of The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari, went from being a corporate lawyer to being a multi-million best-selling author. He sold 20 million copies of his books. My friend Mark McCoy, Olympic gold medalist. My friend Donovan Bailey, Olympic gold medalist. My friend Mark Ferris, who together with his wife Joanna went from starting out in real estate and within 6 years becoming the #1 realtor in all of Canada. So these are the case studies and the stories. Then here's the literature review with all of the academic studies and the deep thinking done by some of the top thought leaders in the field. Dr. Angela Lee Duckworth of the University of Pennsylvania wrote a book called Grit, cites numerous studies in what makes a champion a champion. Malcolm Gladwell, in his very famous book on success, Outliers, again cites numerous studies, including Dr. Anders Ericsson, who did the study that shows that it takes 10,000 hours to develop mastery in any subject. And then there's my own book on winning called Finish Line Thinking, How to Think and Win Like a Champion. I'll just quickly show that to you right now. Here is my book. It's awesome. You can get it on Amazon. And then what happens after that? All right, so putting the book away here. The next thing we go to is this beautiful visual model. This visual model is a Venn diagram. The first circle is focus. The second circle is action. And the third is consistency. Where the three intersect is what I call the winning zone. When you are focused and you take action consistently, you're in the winning zone. Okay, and then there's a metaphor. Metaphors are a wonderful way to explain ideas that the human brain can instantly grasp. So we love metaphors. So what's my metaphor here? How a champion thinks is like how the world's best operating system runs a computer. Both are designed to generate top-notch performance. You instantly get that when you hear that, right? It just instantly wins. And then finally, we've got 7 variations of that original statement. So the first one was, the original, the most important factor in becoming a champion is how you think. Great. Now imagine I was speaking to a group of bankers, a more formal audience. This is what we call the formal palate. To them, I'd say it like this. The deciding factor in becoming a champion is the thinking process you engage in. I'd probably wear a suit and tie for those folks. Now, if I were meeting with a bunch of folks from Silicon Valley who wore jeans and t-shirts, kind of like I am today, it'd be a casual palate. How you think is what makes you a champion. Now, if I were speaking to an audience of second graders or, who need it put in simple terms, it'd be a simple palate. You got to think like a champion to be a champion. If I were speaking to a group of high school students who are looking at the next stage in their life and they want to be inspired by a wise person, I'd say it in an inspiring palette. Thinking like a champion makes you one. And if I were speaking to an audience of people in their 30s, maybe getting married recently, thinking about that stage of having children, how to take their life to the next level, it would be a pragmatic palette. Thinking like a champion gives you the benefits of being one. Now, if I were speaking to a group of wise elders, wiser than myself, I would use a wise palette. You think, and therefore you become. I read this to you in 2.5 minutes. This took me 2 hours to develop. I've developed 53 of these. That is over 100 hours of deep work, just developing these, not even all the reading and thinking and experience. Why is this valuable? I can create a talk on the subject of winning for anybody out of what's in here. I can develop a weekend retreat on the subject of winning for a sales group out of the material that's here. I can create a 16-week program for high-performing sales teams out of what's in here. I can develop a year-long mastermind for top entrepreneurs on the subject of winning out of what's in here. I think once, and I'm able to sell and deliver often. This is steak. There's no sizzle here whatsoever. This is real. You can sink your teeth into this. This is why the way we do it, that we learned with homage to Matt Church, is real. Unlike so many people who call themselves personal branding experts, we help coaches and consultants sell money. We are great sizzle sellers. We know how to say the right things in the right way. There's no substance behind anything they teach you. There's a 5-step way for you to get clients. Okay, you're going to get clients in those 5 steps. What did you really deliver to them? Anything that really is going to make a difference for them? Or did you just make money because you're good at selling the sizzle? I don't sell the sizzle. I sell people steak. And that's why I've had such a high success rate in getting people paid. Now, Matt Church has done this for almost 2,000 people in Australia, okay? So I'm telling you, 50% of them make $500,000 to $2.5 million a year using this methodology. Of the remaining 50%, 65% of those make $250,000 to $500,000 a year, and the remainder make an extra $120,000 to $250,000. Now, I haven't worked with nearly that many. I'm in the kind of 145, 150 person range. But I can tell you this, 57% of the people we work with have had anywhere from 120,000 to one outlier at the end made $8.1 million as a result of this methodology that we offer to people. And what's made that possible is they all learned how to be sought after, not in a gimmicky marketing influencer, Instagram, look at me, how cool I am way, but in a way where there's authenticity, substance, reality behind it. And that's what's had these people go, wow, this is really, really cool stuff.
It's interesting because as you were saying all that, I thought to myself that I can take something and package it in this beautiful box, put a beautiful bow on it, but if there's nothing in the box, what difference does it make?
It doesn't.
How pretty the box is. So it's interesting that we really need to have that substance to keep going. And I agree with you on that. So now that we have done that, we've decided what lane we want to be in. We have our substance that we can provide. What's the next step after that?
You got to go sell it. You got to go sell it. You got to get in front of real human beings who have the kind of problems that you're excited and passionate about solving, and then offer it to them. And there's a whole other methodology, that we have that blends some of the things we learned from Matt Church with some things we learned from one of my other mentors, a man by the name of Mark von Musser, that really is about having a conversation with somebody that's not about, I need to get a sale, but that's about, I'm here to serve a certain kind of person. Let me have a conversation with them. And in this conversation, let me understand what are their main problems and then feed that back to them. So in every area, people have three groups of main problems. So people who are, in the business of being an expert, an authority, a thought leader, okay? What are the main three problems that usually most of them have? Well, one of them is that they don't have enough clients, right? They want more clients, and they want clients that are their ideal clients, not just any client who has a pulse and a wallet. So that's one of the main problems. Second problem they have is they're probably working bloody hard, right? They're just burning out, and this is just not working with them. And thirdly is they're not really being seen as the go-to choice in their space, right? There's a lot of other choices, and they don't know how to stand out. They don't know how to be sought after. And I'm not talking about the sizzle seller kind of charlatan marketer way of stand out. I'm talking about for real, what is really different about you, okay? And the other thing is the problem that they have, but they don't want to articulate because they're embarrassed about it, is, do I really have what it takes? Am I really good enough? Am I the right person? Or am I just one of these imposters, the whole imposter syndrome thing, right? And here's the truth, okay? Here's the truth. Those all problems are real, and I understand them, but it's not the real problem. You know what the real problem is? They're trying to figure it out all by their lonesome. They think, okay, I'm going to do this myself. Or they've been burned by one of these charlatan marketers who took a ton of money from them and did not deliver crap. You know what I'm talking about? Like, did not deliver crap. And so they don't trust anybody anymore, which is understandable, but that's what's keeping them stuck. And then, if you look at it, we've got this this model that, again, Matt Church taught me. And, I'm a big believer that you got to give credit. Okay. Don't ever steal someone else's ideas and pretend they're your own. But if you add it to those ideas and they are your own, then take credit for it. So this is what Matt Church created. This is the belt ladder model. Matt's a black belt in martial arts, and kind of like each level is 10 grand a month. So white belt's 10 grand a month, yellow belt's 10 grand a month. So I look at people and I go, where are you on this? Are you below white belt? That's got to suck. Are you kind of under green belt? You're going to be working your butt off to get to green belt, okay? This is when you work the hardest, right around here. But here, and here, you're going to be a black belt working less than half as hard as you're working at green belt, making twice the money. Okay, so we want to show people, where are you and where do you want to be? And then we'll give them a story or a metaphor, and we'll talk about, we had a client who was an executive coach making $7,000 a year, $7,000 a month on average, wanted to be making 20 grand a month. He thought that'd be great. And it took him 6 months to finally crack through all of this. in working with us. And this fella, then his name's Carl. He hit black belt. He had 60K months. That's spectacular, right? That's almost 10 times what he was making before. And I put this in front of somebody who is in the business of serving people with their expertise. They're really an authority of what they do. And I go, look, if you're a good person and you like what we talked about here, we should do business. So I'm going to invite you to come do my program. That's what I do. And I always ask, always. And if they're not a good fit, I won't ask. I'll actually tell them, you know what? You're not a good fit for me and I'm not a good fit for you. I recommend that you go try something else. And I may even tell them what I think's better, because in many cases I do. So I've had clients that have worked with me for a long time. And I just sent one of them to a colleague of mine who also happens to be a client of mine. But this colleague of mine, she just specializes in getting corporate deals. That's all she does, is she helps people get corporate deals. And this client of mine really wants to get a lot of corporate deals. Now, could we help her with that? We sure could. But this person can help her at a level that I can't, because she was a corporate person. She knows the corporate lingo way better than I do. She knows how to put everything in front of them. Hey, listen, at the very least, this client of mine needs to go check this person out and get back to me and let me know, hey, Nicky, was this good? But I say more power to you, because I'm not about saying you should only get clients from corporate. In fact, I would tell you, don't get all your clients from one place. I would tell you that there are 6 ways in which you can actually leverage your expertise. That's another way for you to be wonderfully sought after. Let me show you some of these 6 ways, because I know you're going to really like them. So again, Matt Church created this. It's called the mode model. These are the 6 modes of delivering. So authoring, you could write a book or a program you sell online. Mentoring, that's like one-on-one coaching of a sort, but it's more of a mentor relationship. And then actual coaching one-on-one. These are all like done to individuals. You charge their credit card or email transfer. That's how you get paid here. Now, this is the corporate sales type of thing, or the association sales. You could be a speaker. You could be a trainer. You could be a facilitator. And there's all kinds of different ways. Part of what I would show someone to do, like, for example, for yourself, like right now, I'd say to you, hey, listen, you're probably making money primarily from 1 or 2 of these. Let's help you make money from 4. That'll automatically double to quadruple your income. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And that's what we want to show people is possible. And once we've done the sales job and we've gotten the right people to say yes to us, then you got to deliver. Your job as a thought leader is you got to do the thinking, you got to do the selling, and then you got to do the delivery. If you don't do all 3 of these, if you try to say, I really just like doing the thinking, I'm not into the selling whatsoever, I'd like the delivery too, but I want to outsource the selling. I got news for you. If you are a person who's in the business of selling yourself, of your expertise, you're basically a one-man or a one-woman band with maybe an assistant, you got to do the selling. You can't outsource that. Now, if you're a corporation, if you have 20 consultants working for you, yeah, you can have professional salespeople at that point. But anybody who's like one person plus assistant, you must do the selling. Otherwise, get out of business. Yeah. You don't belong in business. Simple as that.
So if somebody was starting out today, what is the one thing that they could do today to start?
This is my book, The Thought Leader's Journey, written for a person who's just starting out in business today. It's got a 14-step plan. They can buy it on Amazon, if they can get it for free by going to my website, eCircleacademy.com/TLJ book. It has a blueprint, start to finish, for someone starting, you know. So one thing they could do after buying the book and reading it right away is niche, or niche, as you like to say in the United States. Okay. Second thing they could do is be yourself. Don't be a second-rate version of somebody else. Stop trying to copy other people so much. Be your damn self, you know? And Eleanor Roosevelt, okay, said something brilliant. You know, it's better to be a first-rate version of yourself than a second-rate version of anybody else.
So true.
Yeah.
So also in there, I wanted to touch on this a little bit, because I do know that this is something that you help with. How does podcast guesting help people to become sought after?
You know, that's a fantastic question. So I've got my own podcast, and I've also been a guest on lots of podcasts like this one. And here's what's great about being a guest on other people's podcasts. Well, number one, they have built a bit of a following. They have taken the time and invested that energy into having people trust them, having people want to consume the content they provide. You are instantly conferred upon that level of trust simply by them telling their audience, this is my guest. I'm excited to have them on. This is what they're going to teach you. The audience is open to receive. You know what I mean? They are open to say, oh yeah, I think I'd like to listen to what they have to say. So secondly, if you know what you're talking about, people are going to listen to you. You get to have a conversation with them. It's a bit one-sided because you're doing most of the talking, but somebody could be cleaning up around the house or working out or going for a walk in these pandemic and post-pandemic days, and they get to spend 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes getting to know you. Know, like, trust is how people do business with you. And then finally, if you're on a show, on every show, if you're smart, you're going to offer a giveaway of some sort, just like I did with my free book right now. Like you said, what's the first thing someone can do? Well, read my book, which I'll offer for free. What's great about that for me? Well, a whole bunch more people will know who I am, what my message is. Signing up for that book will put someone's name on my list, so I'll be able to communicate with them going forward. And that's how relationship starts. That's how business gets done. That's brilliant. You know what I mean? And anybody who really has some expertise would be well served by going and being on a show. And look, if you want to learn how to do this, here's another thing I'll offer to everybody on the show. Jump on a phone call with me. Okay. I'll offer my calendar link to you. Absolutely free. You know, the calls that I would charge for, you can have it for free. And let's talk about what you're trying to do in your business. Let's talk about whether podcast guesting is something that makes sense for you. There's no obligation. You know, if you like me and I like you, we might talk about doing more than having this call and we might not. But I promise you this, I will help you put a blueprint together for what you can do to get started in a bigger, more powerful way. And I'll give you my best tips in more detail to your specific situation around, you know, podcast guesting, thought leadership, and how this can help you out.
Love it. And with that, Nicky, I only have 4 final questions for you. The first one is, what's the best piece of advice you were ever given?
Best piece of advice I was ever given was don't quit. Don't quit. Keep at it. Keep going.
How about telling us one thing on your bucket list?
I want to go to Japan. Yeah. I want to have
Nice.
sushi in Japan.
And when the toy companies finally get around to making an action figure of you, what 2 accessories will it come with?
I love it. A knife and a book.
Love
Those
it.
are the 2 things I collect, knives and books.
And the last thing, how do people find you?
eCircleacademy.com is my main company website. I have something called a 360 site. It's NICKY360.com. Everything about Nicky Billou is on there. But honestly, if you're in business and you want to have a conversation today about how you can add an extra $100,000, $200,000, $250,000 to your business, go to that same eCircleacademy.com website. There's a button in the top right-hand corner that you can click on that says book a success call, or go to eCircleacademy.com/appointment. Let's jump on a call. Tell me that you came from the show, and let's make sure that we put something great together for you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Nicky, and thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. It was a real pleasure. Enjoyed having this conversation with you. You are awesome.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us. Once again, I'm Marlana Semenza, photographer and visual strategist. Please comment, like, or share this episode, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss a thing. For more information on how I can help you create your iconic image, visit marlanasemenza.com.